Hi, welcome to another Truth Outreach program. Truth Outreach is a TV show that does a comparison between the teachings of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Mormons, to Christianity. We show you the truth about that comparison, and that they are very, very distinctly different. Now, of course, the baseline that we use for that is the Bible, the good old B-I-B-L-E, basic instruction before leaving earth, because the Bible is the foundation of Christianity. And if what is being taught doesn't line up with the inerrant Word of God, the Bible, then sorry, folks, but it's a false teaching. The Bible doesn't contradict itself. It agrees from Genesis to Revelation. It is God's complete Word, and if someone comes along and brings you teaching that does not line up with the Bible, then there's a problem. And you need to be aware of it, and that's what we do on this program, is bring you that comparison. I'm Rocky Hulse.
And I'm Helen Hulse, and we are the founders of Mormon Missions Midwest Outreach, besides this TV program called Truth Outreach. And we are certainly happy that you're joining us again today, and look forward to sharing this teaching with you, that you can see the truth as we lay it out and check into it.
Now, we like to start our program out with a couple of quotes from Mormon leaders. Brigham Young, being the second prophet of the Mormon Church, gave us a very distinct quote that we like to use here, and I'm going to put up for you now. Brigham Young said, "I say to the whole world, receive the truth, no matter who presents it to you. Take up the Bible, compare the religion of the Latter-day Saints with it, and see if it will stand the test." Now, his first counselor, who was the number 2 man in the Mormon Church at that time, was George A. Smith, and he said, "If a faith will not bear to be investigated, if its preachers and professors are afraid to have it examined, their foundation must be very weak." So let's do some examining. Let's do some comparing, okay?
That's exactly what we do.
Well, today's program is program number 56, and the title of it is Parley P. Pratt, Martyred or Murdered. Now, Parley P. Pratt was one of the original 12 apostles of the Mormon Church. He was ordained by Joseph Smith, who was the founding prophet, the founder of Mormonism. He was ordained by him, Joseph Smith, to be a Mormon apostle on February the 21st, 1835. And he served under Joseph Smith and Brigham Young until his death, May the 13th of 1857. Now, what Helen's got right there is, that's a church news. And it's March the 8th issue, 2003. And now the Church News is a Mormon publication. It comes out weekly. They distribute it in the Deseret News, which is a Mormon-owned newspaper, and they put this thing, and it's 16, 18, 20 pages long or whatever. Comes out weekly, Church News. And on page 5 of this church issue of the Church News is an article titled "A Great Missionary." Yep. And Helen's holding that open for you. It's on page 5. It's called "A Great Missionary." That's the name of the title. The article is subtitled "Church President and Others Visit Gravesite of Martyred Apostle Parley P. Pratt." Now,
Church president means the current prophet.
The current prophet of the Mormon Church. Now, whenever you deal with Mormon history, you have to play Paul Harvey. You have to get the rest of the story. Because Mormon history has been sanitized to strip away the embarrassing and anything that's contradictory to the modern image that they are trying to project. And then they embellish it to promote the image that they want to promote out there. And so this article is a case in point, and that's why we're doing a program on it. To the Mormon who does not look into the real history of the Mormon Church, this story lends itself to the reinforced position of the Mormon Church that since their beginning, they have been innocently persecuted for their beliefs, and it has been solely based on their religion and on nothing else.
Right, that they've been persecuted and martyred for their beliefs and nothing else.
So Mormons are taught that they have been persecuted for one reason and one reason only, and that is their belief in Mormonism. Now, I'm going to put up for you again what we had there. The subtitle of this article says, Church President Others Visit Grave Site of Martyred Apostle Parley P. Pratt. Now, with this, the subtitle is stating that Pratt was martyred. And it gives you this mindset towards this article that that's what it's about, the martyrdom of this Mormon apostle. Now, Webster's Dictionary defines martyr as one who suffers in defense of a belief or a cause. So that's Webster's. We as Christians, we instantly think of Fox's Book of Martyrs, where Christians, rather than deny Jesus, were brutally put to death.
Right. Or we think of that today. Around the world, there are Christians, people who have converted from pagan religions and false religions to Christianity, who are being killed as we are taping this show because they simply will not deny the Jesus Christ of the Bible. And they are martyred for that. And no other reason. Now, so this article kind of makes you think that.
Well, set your mind to believe that rather than deny Mormonism, this Mormon apostle was martyred. Murdered, whatever. Let me see that. I'm going to read a little bit out of that article.
Sure, it's right there.
I highlighted part of this, so let me read directly from this Church News article. It says, according to the publisher's preface to the 1986 Deseret Book edition of his autobiography, Elder Pratt was murdered while serving in the eastern states on his last mission for the church. Now, what they're talking about there is this book here. Now, this is a autobiography published by the Mormon Church, and it's the autobiography of Parley P. Pratt. So that's what this article is talking about right now. A man named Hector McLean had been tracing his whereabouts. This is Parley P. Pratt, blaming Elder Pratt for the dissolution of his marriage to Eleanor J. McComb. She had fled the marriage because of physical abuse and had later been sealed to Elder Pratt in Salt Lake City. Now, this thing says that she was an abused wife or whatever. I did a lot of research and I can't find anything other than what the Mormon statement is about that.
Well, that's in their book.
Right. Now, McLean nearly caught him, this is Parley P. Pratt, nearly caught him in St. Louis, wrote Larry C. Porter in the preface. Fortunately, Elder Pratt eluded the man and managed to escape to Indian Territory in Oklahoma. Here, Elder Pratt was arrested on a warrant emerging from the charges filed by Hector McLean. A federal court acquitted the apostle for lack of evidence, but he was kept at the jailhouse overnight in protective custody. Early the next morning, Judge Ogden brought his horse to him at the jail, saw that he was discharged, and at the same time offered him a knife and a pistol as a means of self-defense. But Elder Pratt declined, saying, "Gentlemen, I do not rely on weapons of that kind. My trust is in my God. Goodbye, gentlemen." Although Elder Pratt rode a circuitous route to escape his pursuers, a light rain allowed Hector McLean and two accomplices, James Cornell and Amasa Howell, to track him. They caught up with the fleeing man some 12 miles northeast of Van Buren near Alma, Arkansas, in front of the Wind Farm. The preface states that shots fired by McLean at Elder Pratt failed to take effect, so he rode up to the apostle and stabbed him in the left breast with a Bowie knife.
Now, you've got to remember that that comes out of an autobiography written by a Mormon in that book that you just said. So.
Exactly. Now, was Mormon apostle Parley P. Pratt murdered? Yes, absolutely, he was. He was murdered. Do we condone such an action?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. No, we don't condone it. It was wrong. Was Pratt killed for refusing to deny Jesus Christ?
Or Mormonism?
Or Mormonism? No, he wasn't. But that's what this article, and again, Mormon history brought out by by the Mormon Church, tries to promote this fact, and we're going to strip this away and show you that here, there, in this church news article, they're trying to glorify this man, that he was a martyr, and I'm going to show you that he was murdered. But what they're not telling you why, we're going to tell you here. Now, remember, whenever you're dealing with Mormon history written by the Mormon Church, you've got to be skeptical. You've got to get the rest of the story. Okay?
You just need to get the entire story.
Mm-hmm. So, in Herbert, let me get that right. Hubert Howe Bancroft, History of Utah, which was a history of 1540 to 1886. On page 546, we read the following. I'm going to put it up for you. This is Hubert Howe Bancroft's History of Utah. In May of 1857, Parley P. Pratt was arraigned before the Supreme Court at Van Buren, Arkansas, on a charge of abducting the children of one Hector McLean, a native of New Orleans, but then living in California. He was acquitted, but it is alleged by anti-Mormon writers and tacitly admitted by the saints that Parley P. Pratt, was sealed to Hector McLean's wife, who had been baptized into the faith years before while living in San Francisco, and in 1855 was living in Salt Lake City.
So now, she was baptized into Mormonism.
Right. Bancroft says that it was tacitly admitted by the saints that he was sealed to Hector McLean's wife. What does tacitly mean?
Well, that's a Mormon that's writing this now. We've got to remember that too.
No. Yeah. Hubert Howe Bancroft was an Army officer.
Okay.
And he wrote an excellent history of Utah.
Okay.
What does tacitly mean? It means implied or understood, not expressed. So the Mormons knew very well that Parley P. Pratt, this Mormon apostle, had been sealed. Now, sealed is Mormonese for a Mormon temple marriage. Okay?
Polygamous marriage.
So Parley P. Pratt had married this woman in the Mormon temple.
Who was already married.
Well, but she left her husband and was divorced. So the fact that McLean's wife, Eleanor, became Eleanor Pratt, being polygamous wife number 12 to Parley P. Pratt, this Mormon apostle, is left out of the article. And, oh, by the way, it's not mentioned anywhere in here. The only place that you can find that he married this woman is a list of the wives in the back. Mm-hmm. That's it. She's just listed as a wife. Nothing else is said about this woman in this autobiography of Parley P. Pratt. Now, the footnote to that piece that I just read from Hubert Howe Bancroft's History of Utah is very, very interesting. This is the footnote. Let me put that up for you on the screen. It says, in the San Francisco Bulletin of March 24th, 1877, it is stated that the apostle made the acquaintance of Mrs. McLean while engaging in missionary work in San Francisco. That her husband, who was a custom house official and a respectable citizen, ordered him to discontinue his visits and kicked him out of the house for continuing them surreptitiously. Now, surreptitiously means done by stealth or clandestine.
Coming around when the husband was
not around, exactly. So he kicked him out of the house for continuing them surreptitiously, and it says, and that the woman was so infatuated with the Mormon elder that she devoutly washed his feet whenever he visited her. On arriving at Fort Smith, Arkansas, near Van Buren, McLean found letters from Parley Pratt addressed to his wife. One of them signed, "Your own." Now, so what we get the rest of the story here is that Pratt was going and seeing this guy's wife behind his back. She was married, and he was going there when the husband wasn't home. And that this woman was so infatuated with him that she was washing his feet and all this stuff. And so the man told him, stay away from my house, kicked him out of his house, do not see my wife anymore.
It'd be like one of the deacons in our church coming over to
our house
while you're in Chicago serving in the United States Navy,
and
I'm washing his feet.
Yeah. Me and
Not
the
for
deacon
long.
would be having words. So
not for long. And you're not making light of it, but
no. But
that's
what we're stating
putting it in
here
today's-
is what was happening.
Right.
What happened with this woman that Pratt, while on a missionary trip to San Francisco, starts
an affair with a woman.
Well, we cannot say that an illicit affair was happening, but what we can say is that undue familiarity was happening with a married woman that should not have been happening, and that the husband ordered to have stopped.
Well, it carried on to such a point that she went with him.
Well, that she left her husband, divorced him, went to Utah and married this man. So, but I don't have any factual evidence to support that an affair was happening, so I'm not going to make that statement.
Well, I think Washington.
We document and support what we say here. Okay, so, But what Bancroft's history shows us is that there was a whole lot more to this story than the Mormon Church is now projecting, and certainly what they're promoting in this article.
2003.
In 2003. So, Mormons reading that today say, oh, this poor man was tracked down by this brute who killed him simply because he was a Mormon. No, that's not what happened. The rest of the story is very important. Now, let me dig down through my books out here on the counter. This here is another book. This is called, it's a very recent book. It was just produced in the year 2002, August of 2002. It's called Blood of the Prophets, Brigham Young and the Massacre at Mountain Meadows. Now, Parley P. Pratt plays significantly in the Mountain Meadows Massacre because he was murdered in May of 1857. The wagon train that was massacred in southern Utah was an Arkansas wagon train. Now, these people from Arkansas on this wagon train had nothing to do with the murder of Pratt. But simply because they were from Arkansas and this Mormon apostle had been murdered there in Arkansas, the Mormons, along with the Indians, joined together and wiped out this wagon train, saving only children the age of 7 and younger. And we did a whole 5-part series on that. That was programs 18 to 22 or something. Several months ago, we did a whole thing on Mountain Meadows Massacre. But this book, Blood of the Prophets, written by Will Bagley and published by the University of Oklahoma Press, Mr. Bagley shed some very important information on the activities that led up to Mormon Apostle Pratt's murder. And I'm going to put up for you a slide. This is out of that book. It says, at summer's end in 1856, Pratt had left Utah with his new wife, the former Eleanor McLean, on a mission to the eastern states. Eleanor was determined to reclaim her children, who were living in her parents' mansion in New Orleans. Now, isn't it amazing that this book by the Mormons say nothing about the fact that Eleanor McLean, his new wife, accompanied him on this missionary trip, and that she was out to reclaim her children. This book by the Mormon Church is silent about such things. You have to get other sources to find out what really happened. Now, when Pratt and his new wife arrive in Missouri, they split up, and she goes on to New Orleans on her own. Now, I continue with some more quotes out of Blood of the Prophets. In New Orleans, Eleanor told her parents she had been to Utah and had been a teacher there, had boarded at Governor Brigham Young's, only boarded, had seen much suffering due to famine, and had seen also the error of her ways. Said she had been mad. She still believed the Mormons were good people and that Young and his associates were true prophets, but she won the confidence of her parents. One Saturday morning, she spirited her children away and took them to Texas, hoping to rendezvous with Pratt. She worked in Houston as a seamstress, and on March the 4th, 1857, left the city with Mormon elder James Gemmell to join a Utah-bound wagon train assembling in Ellis County. So, She goes and wins the confidence of her parents.
She was saying that when you say mad, she wasn't angry mad.
No, she had lost her mind.
She had just been deceived and
so she gains the confidence of her parents, and then she whisks the children away off to Texas, and then leaves with this Mormon elder in a prearranged rendezvous to go meet with Parley P. Pratt. Now I'm going to continue with some more quotes from Blood of the Prophets. McLean learned his wife was in Houston using the name Lucy R. Parker. Now it's interesting with that, Lucy R. Parker, the Parley P. Pratt, the P in Parley P is Parker. So isn't this amazing, okay? So she's using his middle name as her alias. Using the name Lucy R. Parker, and set off in pursuit. In Texas, he intercepted a letter Pratt had sent to Eleanor instructing her to fly instantly northward and rendezvous with him on the Arkansas River. My carriage shall await you there, if the Lord will, he promised. Armed with Pratt's instructions, this letter that McLean had intercepted, McLean headed for Indian Territory. After a long pursuit, McLean caught his ex-wife at this point, in the Creek Nation and had her arrested. Eleanor said he threw her on the ground and seized the children.
He was after his children, not his ex-wife.
No, but she was stealing the children away to Utah.
Right.
And so shortly after Eleanor is arrested, Pratt was caught and he was also arrested. He was taken to Fort Smith, Arkansas, and he was put on trial. Now, these are quotes again from Blood of the Prophets. The next morning before a packed courtroom, McLean related the burden of his soul's anguish. Some 500 spectators listened to him implicate the scoundrel apostle, producing intense excitement. Twice McLean thought the crowd would tear Pratt to pieces. But even he admitted he did not have sufficient evidence to convict his wife and her lover. Fearing the mob would lynch his prisoner, the magistrate postponed the case twice. The next morning he had Pratt's horse brought to the jail and quietly released him. McLean's friends reported Pratt's escape, and with two companions, McLean tracked the unarmed man. On the western border of Arkansas, McLean shot and stabbed his rival from horseback and left him for dead. Now, Parley P. Pratt was murdered by Hector McLean. Of that there is no doubt. And we do not condone such an action.
Absolutely
never.
Not.
We don't condone murder. But on the flip side of the coin, Pratt was not a martyr for the cause of Mormondom. He was murdered because he got involved with another man's wife.
A married woman.
And in fact, he caused her to leave his husband, and then he caused Eleanor to leave her husband, and then he married her as his 12th polygamous wife.
She ran off and left her children behind.
And then the children were taken to New Orleans and were there with her parents. And then by deceit, both her and Parley P. Pratt connived this thing. She went on by herself, gained the confidence of her parents, and then when they weren't, when they were comfortable and the opportunity presented itself, she took the children to Houston, and then got in touch with Parley P. Pratt. He sent her a letter and said, rendezvous here, I'll send my carriage. And so she, with the children, now stolen away from this man, and he intercepts that letter. And then he tracks them down, takes them to court. He didn't have enough evidence to convict him in a court of law or whatever. And so once released, this man, he's already stolen my wife. Now he's trying to steal my children. And he killed him. He tracked him down and he killed him. Now, is murder right? No, it's not. But you see what the Mormon Church was putting forth in the article in here was, this missionary is martyred for the cause of Mormondom.
Of Mormonism.
No. Hector McLean didn't track him down and try and get him to deny Mormonism. He tracked him down because he stole his wife away, going clear back to San Francisco when he told him not to come near his home again, stay away from his wife.
His children.
And then, his wife divorced him, went and married this Mormon apostle, and then by deceit, this Mormon apostle connives with the wife to steal the man's children away.
If you put two and two together, it's obvious that she abandoned her children and her husband divorced him to go with this
to go with Pratt.
Pratt to Utah.
To become wife
And
number 12.
That's why her children wound up with her parents, because they were in the custody of the father. So you can quite clearly see.
And so, through deception and deceit, Pratt and Eleanor attempted to steal this man's children away to Utah, and these treacherous dealings are what cost him his life.
Right.
He was not martyred for the cause of Mormondom. He was murdered by an angry man who lost his wife and
his children.
And this guy, Pratt, and the ex-wife tried to steal his children away from him. That's why he was murdered. Again, was murder right?
No.
Was Hector McLean right in murdering this man?
No.
No. But the Mormon Church is spinning a yarn here by erecting a big monument to this guy, and he was out doing missionary work when he was murdered by this man because he was a Mormon. No, that's not true. Yes, he was murdered, but not because of being a martyr to Mormonism. No. He was murdered because he was dabbling in another man's affairs, stole his wife away, and tried to steal his children. You have to be so careful with Mormon history. And the unfortunate thing is, very few Mormons know this information that I dug out. And so they read the church news, and it promotes the image that, here's another, in our history, we Mormons have been persecuted and run from place to place, and persecution therefore makes their church true. That's, that's the image that's like promoted.
The founder of the church being a martyr for Mormonism. Not true.
No, he was taken because of treason, and was the reason he was in jail in Carthage, in Carthage, Illinois, and he was stealing all kinds of people's wives away from him too. Joseph Smith was marrying women that were still married. But that's another program. We can't get into all of Mormon history in a half hour.
No, but it's just it's the same concept that it was not for the teachings of Mormonism that they were martyred.
Right.
It was for
it was
crimes
another
they
reason.
were committing.
And that's why you got to get the rest of the story. And that's why we do this program. That's why this program, Truth Outreach, exists. That's why we're on this station. We do the research and we present the facts. Because you can't get the facts about Mormonism from the Mormon Church.
No.
They embellish it, they strip away the bad stuff, they embellish the good, and then and some of it is just pure fabrication.
Well, it's like their commercials.
And they promote it so that it looks like it's this rosy picture, and it's not.
Right.
So, folks, not only do we do this program, we do seminars at churches. We have a website, which you'll see at the end of the program, which has a lot of information on it. We have newsletters. If you'd like to get our newsletter, contact us by the address you're going to see here in a moment. We'll put you on our mailing list, and we really appreciate the letters we get. We get some really nice letters from folks that watch the program every week. We appreciate your prayers, and we appreciate your financial support. So, Lord bless you, and we'll see you next week.